for our final discussion on Cicely Tyson's Just As I Am. I am Felicia Durden, and I am so happy to be facilitating this book talk. Cicely Tyson is an amazing actress, activist, and she lived 96 beautiful years, and she had a lot of wisdom that she shared in this autobiography that it took her a long time to write. She admits to that. And so today in our final discussion day, I wanted to bring a bunch of quotes from the book that I thought were thought at the end to share. Everyone has to share something that they got out of the book that they found most interesting, or even from our discussion today if you had not read the book completely. All right. So I wanted to start by listening to Cicely in her own words. I am going to share another screen where she's going to, talk about her own story in her life. So just one moment, I'm going to share again. This is always the fun part. All right, I think I'm there. Exactly, I am actually sharing the wrong screen. One second. New share. Well, while I try to figure out my technology, does anyone have anything to share really quick? Because the right screen is not showing. If not, you guys just bear with me really quickly and I will get her on here.
Take your time.
Yeah. Thank you. I knew I had that there. Don't you guys love technology?
No, I do not.
I am not liking it right now because it is giving me a bit of a problem. I had it already set up, and so now I'm going to have to reshare the screen.
This is why I told someone, I think Joanna and I was talking about, this is why we can't wait to back to in-person meetings.
Because I can just pop it right up there. All right, now I think it's going to work. I hope. And I have 2 of these videos to show, so I got to figure it out soon. Yes. All right, here we go. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
If you read the Bible from the very beginning, God created Eve. And you saw what she did to Adam. I know that you have heard over and over again that woman was always the strength behind the man. She submerged her own personality and put every ounce of strength into a man, right? I've always had an image, primarily because of the way we have been treated in this country, of a ladder. On the top rung is the white man. The second, the black man. The third, the white woman. And the fourth, the black woman. Holding on to the last rung. And having her fingers trampled on by all of those above her. And yet, she managed to hold on, bruised and bleeding hand, until she could rally enough strength to reach for the sand. We have been doing it all our lives. And so this sudden upsurge about women and their strength, it's always been there. We've always had it, but we've always given it away. We support the world, and we suffer as a result of it.
Okay. I would like for you just to think for a moment about what she just shared and share your thoughts on that. Because she said a lot.
Well, I think we've always known that the Black woman is very strong. We that are Black women, we've always known this. Other people are just coming to realize this. I think especially in our latest political climate, with the emergence of people like Stacey Abrams and some other people, it's finally being acknowledged and recognized by other people. We know the Black woman was the strong part of the community, especially in our heritage with how our family units were broken and we had to maintain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well stated, Michelle.
I also think, to add to that, it's just there's a certain level of credibility that you've got to take from Cicely Tyson being born in 1924 to have witnessed atrocities that actors and actresses that she's still doing movies with never would bring that kind of context to her work. And to be brave enough to continue to be an actress after growing up the way she did in the climate she did, just so much admiration for her. Respect.
Right. Mm-hmm. Her strength. I mean, she went through so much. Thank you, Tara.
If you really think about the strength of the Black woman, even though we were on the fourth rung, throughout history, time and time again, the Black woman has had to step over. She might not have stepped over that top rung, but she stepped over number 3 and number 2, and she held the family together. She was able to get out there and get a job and function.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that the strength of the Black woman has been undermined many, many times.
Yes.
And so
Thank
we are doing what we were put here to do, and that was to be a helpmate to the man. And in some cases, we've been the leader in the situation.
In a lot of cases, that's so true. That's what we were talking about last week not last week, but last time we were talking about her book, and that it was really a homage, I think, to women. And you all hit on it, that the Black woman has been the pillar, has had to be strong, has had to hold on and move up from that fourth rung and push our way forward. And like you said, Joanne, even became the leader in a lot of cases because of not having any other choice. And so I thought that these were some of the most important things that she could say on her own. And she has some poignant words that I want to talk about. She has a rich language and a rich philosophy, I think. She's a very brilliant woman. I've always been drawn to her and loved her movies, even from a young girl. I loved watching her because there was something I saw in her, some type of a strength. But one of the things she said is healing, as I see it, it's not the absence of pain. Rather, it is a gradual reduction in the ache. The lessening of that hurt eventually makes room for fond memories to surface. And we know that she suffered. Her mom.
Oh, you cut off for a minute there.
Oh, sorry. We know that she suffered. Her mom did not want her to be an actress. She had some relational problems. She had problems in the industry. What do you think about her quote? This is from her book itself. That healing, she says, as I see it, is not the absence of pain, but it's a gradual reduction in the ache. The lessening of that hurt eventually makes room for fond memories to surface.
I think that's brilliant.
Isn't it though?
I mean, that's contemporary language for dealing with the trauma and holding the lessening of the ache with the feelings of joy that she could still find in living such a long life. I think it's beautiful.
Encouraging. Anyone else? We've all suffered pain, and it's so true. There is a gradual reduction in that ache, and we have to make room for those memories, those fond memories to surface. It's been a really hard time, and I lost my dad to COVID and my brother. So for me, I can certainly, in a current time, understand that healing doesn't mean that I don't suffer pain at times and miss them and have a hard time, but there is a gradual reduction in the ache. And I do make room for it by finding those fond memories and laughing about those times. And a woman of 96 who lived through so many things from the 20s, and we know the type of pain that she suffered. I think she's really given us a life lesson here. As I said, she has a very rich language and philosophy. Oops. Another one that I like that she said is, I am as inquisitive about life now as I was as a child. My story will never be finished, nor should it be. For as long as God grants me breath, I will be living and writing my next chapter. What are your thoughts on this? This is another quote I got out of her book. We can't stop being inquisitive. You've never arrived. You got to keep moving forward. Go ahead, Joanne.
I'm trying to gather my thoughts and think when I think about what she said here, it's true that as long as we are living and breathing, our life story goes on, and keep writing it. And as we age and move forward, our reflections are just that much deeper. You know, we see things and we can write and tell about them in a way that touches the next person and makes them stop and think. And when I started reading her book and it says, "Just as I am," that's a song that we sang many, many times in church. And I started thinking, yes, I am just this. This is just who I am, just as I am.
Yes.
And basically, she was kind of raised in a very strict way. You know, some of it I understood because we were kind of raised under some of that. But she was just as she was.
She is, yes.
But she was still able to make it. And I think had she not been just as who she was and spoke just as what she thought, she may not have had the influences that she did.
That's a great point. She was such a genuine person. And you're right. I don't think she would have had the influence either if she wasn't just who she is, just as I am.
Yeah.
No apologies. She was who she is. She chose the roles that she wanted to choose. That's wonderful.
Another way of saying that, and I've forgotten now who said it, but it says, "I am that I am."
Mm-hmm.
You know, she says, "Just as I am," and the other one says, "I am that I am." And truthfully, that is who we all are.
Right. Right. Thank you, Joanne. That's beautiful. Anyone else have any thoughts on this one? Or any other quote? Like, go ahead.
I remember just thinking when I saw her on the Martha Stewart show when she was promoting her book, and I just thought she looked, for her age, so strong still.
Mhm.
And just the way she was speaking and carrying herself, it just made me proud of her.
I know. Oh, she was elegant. I was so proud of her too. She held herself up, didn't she? 96.
I don't know, I'm just getting emotional. I'm gonna mute for a minute.
Amazing. Amazing. Awesome. All right, now her movies. She was famous for her movies. She had some of the most wonderful movies. And so I do want to play a quick YouTube video, hopefully, that talks about her movies. Bear with me. And I'm going to do it the same way I did it last time. I'm not going to fool around. Hmm. Here it is. And here we go.
You will always be my generous baby girl, whether you like it or not.
I love this movie. Oh, she was in Roots.
You know, Miss Ruth was a lady. And a lady always knows when to leave. But I gotta see him, Mr. Sheriff. I gotta see him.
You just gotta get back to reality.
The reality is that Westside Prep School is doing what we built it to do, Clarence.
Talk to the young.
We don't have that kind of time, Miss Jane.
What else you got, Jim?
Got the strength God gave us women to survive.
Adam, I don't want you to be any less than what you are.
Sometimes life doesn't give us any choice.
But it does. You always have a choice.
The joy of books is that you get to act it out for yourself. Things began to happen, and people began to talk about, this new actress, Cicely Tyson, and next thing I knew, I was here in front of you.
African Americans hold Cicely in such high regard. She would only do roles that served us as African Americans. She kept her way, she kept her class, she kept representing us, and she remained Cicely Tyson.
Okay. I love seeing those. Some of those are just some of my very favorite movies. Let me see. I, of course, love Sounder. I put that one here.
You have it?
I do have that. Sounder, love that. Jane Pittman. Oh, my goodness. I loved her in that. As an educator, of course, seeing her in the Marva Collins story was amazing. I still watch that movie any chance I can get. I love Marva Collins and Cicely Tyson. But she said, acting for me has always been an organic process that involves absorbing my character's reality, allowing her to saturate the cells and fibers of my being. And just if anyone can share, either from the book or just from personal experience, and a role that you remember Cicely in that impacted you. And I will share mine first. It would definitely be her playing in the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman. Something about that character just really touched me, and seeing the things that she went through. I remember watching it as a young girl and watching her age and go through not being able to drink the water fountains, and just the story of being a slave and then being set free. It for me just brought a love of that time that I just wanted to research more and more. And so seeing her act in that drove me to want to study more about slavery and to understand more what my people had gone through. And because I wasn't getting this type of teaching in school, unfortunately, at that time, that wasn't part of the social studies curriculum, I guess. But seeing that movie on television impacted me in a huge way. I think that's when I became a big fan of hers.
I like so many too, but I choose a contemporary one. Help, that tenderness when she had been the help for that family for all those years, and then the way that her daughter, the way that the family had to let her go, and it was, you could just, let's see the quote. she allowed the process of absorbing her character's reality, allowing her to saturate the cells and fibers of her being, even as late as that movie. She was still doing it to the point where you ached with her in that movie. And that was just a couple of years ago.
Right. Thank you.
For me, it would be, of course, the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman, because she was just so outstanding in that. But even in the later Tyler Perry Medea movies, I remember when I was going through a tough stretch, and I remember when she was telling the character, her daughter, you have to forgive people, not for them, but for yourself, so you can move on. And that really resonated with me. And just how she, it didn't matter what movie role she was in, she was always top notch and she always shined.
She sure did. Yes. Joanne?
I think I would have to agree with all of the above and say that I have not been a real movie buff, but I remember her in Miss Jane Pittman and even The Sounder, you know, and some of the other movies. There was just something about her that made you think, or made me think a lot about us as a race and as the female. You know, she had a lot of good character traits that always was up front.
Absolutely.
And you knew that they were real.
Right. She was beautiful. Amazing. Thank you.
This makes me want to rent a bunch of movies.
I was just gonna think about
I was thinking the same thing.
I'm gonna watch some. I'm gonna watch some tonight. I'm gonna at least watch one tonight. Now let's think about her political work. She was, she was there politically. She says, America has our blood on its palms, our flesh between its teeth. When you come to understand what we have endured, when you let the barefaced savagery of all of it truly penetrate, you are forever haunted by the horror. This one, she did Sojourner Truth in front of Congress. It's beautiful. You can watch the YouTube video of her speech. It was absolutely amazing. But she was not afraid to talk about the misjustices of African Americans. She says in the United States, protest is our birthright. But when you exercise that right, you are often penalized for it. She further said, it's easy to say Black Lives Matter. The question is, do they matter enough for this nation to treat and compensate them fairly? Historically, the answer has been a resounding no. What do you think of her courage in saying these things? These are quotes straight out of her book. What are your thoughts?
I think it goes along with us being on the fourth rung and we're having to step out and make it to the top to survive. And someone needed to say those things, and she had the courage and the strength to step forward and say it.
Yes.
Well, I think it goes along with her saying, I finally have something to say. And I think at this point, she had lived so long, seen so much, and now she felt that this is my time. I need to speak. I need to be heard.
Absolutely. Tara?
Yeah, I agree. And I think her work was in a form activism. I think that people choose their paths in life, and maybe she didn't show up lots of rallies or not, but her life was a representation of activism, of optimism, of hope, but also this resounding path towards pressing for justice. And I love the grace that she shows in her activism in these quotes. It's graceful and it's powerful.
It is. I'm gonna go back to that first one. America has our blood on its palms, our flesh between its teeth. When you come to understand what we have endured, when you let the barefaced savagery of it all truly penetrate, you are forever haunted by the horror. That is strong. I mean, she laid it all out there.
Yep.
That is activism in her life, as you all noted. And we said even before in our last question, she represented herself in such a way that her words matter. It matters to me that Cicely Tyson said this. Not that it wouldn't matter that another actress did, but knowing her life, her years, her work, I think it'll make people wake up. And if you have time, I'm not going to show it, but if you can watch Sojourner Truth, just look it up on YouTube. It'll really touch you. You'll get a lot out of it and see just how strong she really was. And then she said, in the life of every Black child, a moment arrives when he or she, becomes wretchedly aware of how we are perceived. This bruising recognition was among my first. And I can remember the first time I realized, oh, I'm different, I'm Black. It was in elementary school where a student said something negative about a Black person, not knowing that I was a Black person for some reason, or not caring. My son can tell me when someone used the N-word in front of him. It's like, wait a minute, what's this? Can you share your time when you realize this, that moment arrived?
Dr. Durden, I'll go first. I attended kindergarten through second grade in the Scottsdale School District, elementary school district back in the 60s. And when I was in school, there was a total of, by the time I was in second grade, a total of 3 Black students at the school, myself and my 2 sisters. And then when Ernie Banks would come in for spring training, there would be a total of 5 of us. And I remember the teacher telling my mom that she kept us so clean and that we were just so smart. She was thinking she was giving my mom a compliment. And I remember my mom getting upset and later understanding she said that because you were Black. She didn't expect that out of you.
Oh, yes.
And this was in, like I said, mid 60s.
I can imagine. 60s in Scottsdale. Oh, yes. 3 kids and then 5 when Ernie Banks. Oh, wow. You must have seen so much. Did they have Latino students at that time? Because that's mainly who I went to school with.
No, it was all white. It was all white. Wow. Because at that time, when my dad worked for the city in the early, up until like the 70s, the early 70s, to work for the city of Scottsdale, you had to live in Scottsdale.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
But one thing, can I go back to her quote when she was talking about America?
Yeah.
It just kind of makes me think the critical race theory that we're having to deal with now, because people don't want us to talk about what happened to us, what was done to us. And you have to have leaders now coming against that because it's part of America's history.
Right.
And it's so amazing. For many years, people were done wrong, but now they don't want anybody else or children now to be in class and to be feeling bad about what the true history is.
That's the truth. Thank you, Michelle. Very touching. Tara, Joanne, whoever wants to go next.
Well, I'm not sure when when I became aware, but I think I was probably in high school or had graduated from high school because I was raised in an all Black town.
Mhm.
And so the teachers were all Black, my classmates were all Black, and even in high school, uh, I went to an all Black school. So I'm thinking about with my kids though, I got married and we were living out here, and my daughter was in the first class at Arredondo, and there was only, I don't know if there was even a handful of Black kids there, but probably about third grade or something. One day she came home and she was upset because this little girl had called her Black and kind of pushed her into the cactus bush.
Oh. Mhm.
And I grabbed up my baby and put him in the seat, and I said, "Come on." And so we went over and I rang the doorbell. I drove in the car, drove over to the mother's house, and she answered the door. And I said, "I just want to find out why your child and my child can't walk down the same street together and she not get pushed into the bush."
Mhm.
She says, "Oh, I don't know what's wrong with," and she said her child's name. "I don't know what's wrong with her. We don't have any problems with the colors at over at Motorola." She worked at Motorola. I said, "What color are you talking about?"
They're all kind of colors.
Huh? Yeah.
They're all kind of colors.
And so I started naming off different colors for her. I said, "Well, I tell you one thing, she better not do that again. And you tell your daughter to walk on her side of the street." She was on the north side, on the south side, we were on the north. I said, "And then she doesn't have to be pushing my daughter into the bush." I said, "Because that's not going to well." And I think that's when I really started to realize that, hey, things are a little different, than when I grew up, because I really did. I grew up in an all Black town. It's about 98% Black then, now. And we treated each other, with respect and all. And so I'm thankful that I didn't have to be in a school situation where there were people thinking that they were better than me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Joanne.
You're welcome.
Tara?
The thing that sticks out the most for me is our family. My dad was, he indirectly kind of tried to teach us that we were Black and that we should be proud, because we had so much Black art in our house growing up in the 70s that a lot of what my mom kept, and it's in our garage. And sometimes when I'm working, I'm like, wow, that's a shocking picture. It's like huge, bold, African, like huge artwork and pictures, velvet pictures of the Black person with the face at the angle with the tear coming down. I'm like, my dad was very into art. He was very into showing us art and wanted us to feel proud about it. But at the same time, he didn't he was teaching us to be proud, but he also acknowledged, because he was a self-employed person, that it was a difficult life for us. And a lot of things didn't go well for him because people didn't treat him well as a businessman because he was Black. He made it clear to us.
Mm-hmm.
He was a contractor in a very difficult time being successful in business. He wasn't treated fairly and wasn't paid right. And we got that reality very early on as kids. It was a huge dose of reality. But at the same time, he wanted us to be proud of who we were.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that.
Oh, yes. Yeah, Tara and I actually grew up together. And I remember all that beautiful artwork and statues. And I used to like to come visit your house and just look around at it, because it's like, wow, this is like in a museum. They have everything. That was awesome. My mother did the same thing. She always told me, you're Black, you got to work harder than everybody because we're smarter than everyone, she told me. That's the reason why. And they know that. So they expect more of you. So she kind of tricked me into, don't feel bad about it. It's because we're smarter than them. So our parents did a good job. All right. Here's another quote she had. She says, during a good year, to be Black is to live with an ongoing hum of anxiety, a static ever present beneath life's high notes. During a plague and a racial revolution. To be Black is to be rendered deaf by the uproar, knowing that if this virus doesn't take you down, a blue knee on your neck or bullets in your back just might. When you leave your house, you're never quite sure whether you'll make it back alive. And that is no exaggeration. In this country, Blacks don't have to go looking for trouble. It finds us. And you know what she's talking about, the plague, the coronavirus, COVID-19, and George Floyd and all of the police brutality. And I think she said it very well.
Yes, she did.
That's why I say her words, just picking out things that she said, it was so hard, but gosh, there's so many good quotes. Now, her personal life. She said, embedded in this woman's observation was an assumption that lives at the center of all bias. You are not like me. You are intrinsically different, and that different deems you inferior. So she did have that feeling of feeling inferior because of being a woman. She talked about it with the wrong and her race, and she had some love losses. But I think despite all that, she was such a strong example for us. In the book, if you haven't read it, starting around page 176, she talks about her romances. She said, I had my share of romances before I met Miles. After my brief marriage to Kenneth, I had wanted much to do with men. I hadn't wanted much to do with men. My priorities were my daughters, Joan, and the stage. Still, a few relationships sprung up, and some of them lasting the length of a pinky finger. I dated a disc jockey for a long time, a man I met at a jazz club, then went on for only a few months after he'd worried me half to death with too much talking. I dumped him for calling into a radio station and dedicating the Billie Holiday song to him, You Ain't Gonna Bother Me No More. Another man, a dancer, lasted just weeks before I let him go. I don't even recall why, but anytime I broke up with someone, my mother would start asking about him. Men loved to charm her with gifts and flowers, and she gladly accepted the bounty. Why you didn't marry so-and-so, she'd lament. He was such a nice man. Look, get out of my business, I'd retort. And if he's so nice, why don't you marry him? That was enough to close her mouth. She just is so witty.
Yeah.
She's just so real and, went through so many things. It's just, I think the thing I admired the most was she loved her child, she loved children, loved her family, loved her God, loved God, and just continued to live and to stay active and to do things. And that is what I want to leave with that. So now we're at the part where you guys have to tell me what's your favorite story or part of the book. My favorite part was that she says, I am not one to feel as if I've arrived. For even at 96, I'm still arriving. I think from that I learned that you just have to keep going. We've never arrived. There's always something more to do in life. And that's my philosophy. I'm always trying to grow and trying to figure out what the next thing is that I want to do. I'm easily bored as a person. So I am typically looking for something new, and I'm just always inspired by people who have that mindset. And so I think my favorite part of the book or story was just her always finding the next step, always pivoting at the right time, picking the right role. She stayed relevant. I mean, she was in these Tyler Perry movies. She made movies up to 2020. I mean, that's a long time. And we're still excited to see her. So that's what I want to do. Whoever wants to go next.
I saw something, maybe her even doing an interview on this while she was doing the book tour, and I remember this. She knew instantly whether she should take a role because she felt a tingling or something in her body, almost like divinely accepting roles that she knew would advance the message that she wanted to live her life by. And it's so evident that she was divinely led with all these roles that have had such an impact, even like you said, into 2020, the latest roles. I think that's beautiful. And I think we all should live that way. We should all tingle when we're doing innately what we've been created to do, whether it's being an actor or an educator or, whatever it is our calling is.
Hi, Lonnie.
You know, one thing that struck a little bell with me when I was reading, I haven't read the whole book, but I was reading something the other day, and she talked about how during the Martin Luther King era, she thinks that we began to give too much to our children.
Mm.
And I started thinking about that, and I thought, well, you know, in a way, she might be right, because we got so busy giving them things and making sure that they had a life that was better than what we had, that we forgot to teach them some of the problems that our parents had to go through, you know, with like Jim Crow and all of those things. And they weren't getting enough of it taught to them in school. And
Right.
so I just thought, yeah.
That's good. That sounds like my dad. That's how he felt, that we needed to understand those things. Oh, he talked about it all the time from Mississippi. So I heard it all. But that's true. Thank you, Joanne. I like that too. Michelle?
Well, I'm like Joanne, I haven't finished reading all of the book, but a lot of my favorite parts was her interaction with her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when she had to convince her mom that she wasn't a bad girl, a bad person for wanting to model, be in movies. And then once her mom saw the work, she then kind of accepted that her daughter was special and gifted.
Mm-hmm.
And because I haven't finished reading the book, I was just wondering, did she include when she got the medal from President Obama?
I did not remember reading that portion in there, but
I've been reading because I've been skimming and I didn't see that.
Mhm.
And I just kind of wonder why she didn't include that.
Mhm. But I could have missed it because I speed read it. And I was looking
I
at the best
read
quote.
it too.
Mhm.
That's why I said I haven't finished reading it because I
Mhm.
speeded through it and, just picked out parts and things. And so I'm like, did I miss that? Did she talk about that?
I don't think so. Mhm.
Yeah, and I just kind of thought that was interesting because to me that would have been a high point.
Huge, huge, huge. Well, it was a wonderful book, and I hope you all enjoyed it. But we're going to switch to fiction next time because we haven't done any fiction yet. So our next book is Zora Neale Hurston's Hitting a Straight Lick with a Crooked Stick. And it's a bunch of short stories by Zora Neale Hurston. And this is from her estate. This book came out in 2020. And so everyone who's on the call with me today, I'm going to send you a book. So you have to give me your address. And I'm going to gift it to you because I want everyone to get this book so that we can read it. And we don't have to come back together. I'm giving us July off because I need a summer vacation break. August the 26th, that's our tentative date in 6 p.m. But it's tentative. We have to make sure that the library staff can accommodate that. But Tara, I have your address, but Michelle, you give me the other two, and I'm just going to have it sent through Amazon to your homes.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
A new book.
Thank you so much.
That is so nice of you, Dr. Joe.
You
are really a reader. People that coming from a library background, we love books and we want other people to be involved.
I want it in people's hands. Oh my gosh, you just don't know. I get so happy even in the airport or I see somebody reading the book. I have to go, oh, you're reading the book. I know you can read on your tablet or whatever, but I just like to have a book.
Yeah, I don't like reading on tablets. I'm old school. I've got to have the book in my hand.
Me too. I write in them. Highlight. My books are all written in little notes to myself. So awesome. All right. Well, that is it.